Thank you. Thank you so much for this great honor. It really is a great honor. And it has a particular resonance and a value for me because I actually think, in my mind, I attended Wootz Film School. I know you think of me as a New York filmmaker, but I'll try to explain. I went to film school. It was a small film school at the time, New York University, 1960. And it had begun only a little more than a decade after the founding of your school here. In fact, at that time, NYU Film School, what there was of it, was strongly modeled on the Wootz program. So today, I feel like a graduate who's come back after a long time away. I'd like to think that anyway. And of course at NYU, that was the greatest source of my film education and my inspiration, aside from, of course, the movie theaters and television from my mother and father's apartment. But it was there, that was the place where I began to really learn the craft and discipline of filmmaking. And I had a wonderful teacher there at NYU named Haig Manoogian, excuse me, to whom I dedicated Raging Bull. And I learned from him the lesson of the absolute necessity of personal vision in making films. What Andre Vajda calls, quote, the impertinent freedom, unquote, of creativity in the cinema. And I learned this in the best, hardest, and the simplest way because this professor, Haig Manoogian, really believed in me. He gave me courage and most of all inspired me, like all great teachers do, I think. And he based his unshakable beliefs on, in artistic expression on these models: Italian neorealism, French New Wave, and documentary cinema, and sometimes the surreptitious poetry of the old Hollywood masters, but we argued a lot about that. And of course, the Polish cinema. It's the great, sweeping, humanistic, intimate, and profound movies that were an integral part of what I like to think of now as a golden age of the international cinema. Those Polish films really challenged us and excited us so deeply that they had their spiritual genesis here at Wootz. And it was Wootz that another professor, Robert Gessner, used as a model for his own very rigorous approach to teaching film. These two professors didn't get along. They had two different points of view about this, but I'm not actually sure that this idea originated here. I may be completely wrong, but I'll find out. But in the Gessner class, which was not a production class, it was a cinema theory, which was very new at the time. We were required to take a plastic sensitivity test. Anybody know of that at all? No? Anyway, he claimed it was something, it really sounded like some sort of chemistry test, but in actuality, it was a test of visual inspiration, a narrative expression, and symbolic analysis. At least I think it was. The test was quite long and required written answers, but also drawings. And one assignment of the test was draw a film frame and describe the scene's emotional impact. And the frame I chose was from Ashes and Diamonds. The scene I drew was in the bombed out church where he unveils the two bodies, and I described it this way. I drew the picture based on a still that I had found in a book. Very few books on film at the time. And the description was shock and despair in a shot as he unveils the two bodies that the two men he had killed earlier that day. There were other drawings and other questions, and I got a B on the written description, which is only, a B is really only a few points better than adequate. But at least I did a better job on the drawing, I thought. I'd like to think that was because the original imagery of the scene was so powerful that that image can only be expressed visually. But while that explanation gives Andre Vajda due credit, it gives my drawing entirely too much. It does show, though, I think, the power that films at that time, like Ashes and Diamonds, had for all of us, and that your great, really your great national cinema embodies in the work of Weide, of course, and Munch and Haas, and Alexander Ford and Roman Polanski and Skolimowski, Kawalerowicz, Zanussi, Kieslowski, so many others, I'm going to forget names. But this was a very exciting time to see these films. I was 19, 21 years old, and it was a major, major impact. I even saw Ashes and Diamonds on television, as I said earlier, in English at times, just with commercials. It didn't matter. Because this is a cinema of personal vision, social commitment, and poetic responsibility, which all of us, when we try to make films, with every film, every time out, we should struggle to meet these levels. I hope this explains at least a little why I feel such a sense of homecoming at Łódź. I was doing some research on this. I found a quote by Alexander Jackiewicz, who wrote in 1954, "I would like our cinema, Polish cinema, I would like our cinema to prepare for a great battle of historical, social, and moral significance against the reality around us, against our time, in order to create a Polish school of films worthy of the great tradition of our art." And that Polish school, Jackiewicz describes, was a movement that began here at Łódź and thrives here still. It educates us, challenges us, and continues to inspire us. And I think in an important way that everyone who loves movies has gone to Łódź and been blessed by it. So it's really remarkable for me to be here today. It's like some sort of a strange dream. We talked about this film school for 50 years, and I made it here today somehow. And I thank you so much. You'll never know what this honor means to me. Thank you, thank you. And for your cinema.